Equations of uniformly accelerated motion. There are three equations of motion, which are: first equation of motion, second equation of motion, and third equation of motion. First equation of motion: from acceleration is equal to final velocity minus initial velocity over time. Acceleration is over 1. Cross multiplication. Final velocity minus initial velocity times 1 is equal to final velocity minus initial velocity, which is equal to acceleration times time is equal to acceleration time minus initial velocity is going to shift to this side. Then it is going to be plus initial velocity. Therefore, final velocity is equal to initial velocity plus acceleration times time, which is the first equation of motion. Second equation of motion: from average velocity is equal to displacement over time. Average velocity is over 1. Cross multiplication. Displacement times 1 is equal to displacement, which is equal to average velocity times time is equal to average velocity times time. But average velocity is equal to final velocity plus initial velocity over 2. And final velocity is equal to initial velocity plus acceleration times time, which is first equation of motion. By substituting final velocity by initial velocity plus acceleration times time, initial velocity plus initial velocity is equal to 2 initial velocity plus acceleration times time over 2. But displacement is equal to average velocity times time. Substitute average velocity by 2 initial velocity plus acceleration times time over 2. Then displacement is equal to time times 2 initial velocity is equal to 2 initial velocity times time plus time times acceleration times time is equal to acceleration times time square over 2. Then displacement is equal to 2 initial velocity time divided by 2 is equal to initial velocity time plus acceleration time square divided by 2 is equal to 1/2 acceleration time square, which is the second equation of motion. Third equation of motion. By squaring the first equation of motion, final velocity square is equal to initial velocity plus acceleration time times initial velocity plus acceleration time. Final velocity square is equal to initial velocity times initial velocity is equal to initial velocity square. Initial velocity times acceleration time is equal to initial velocity acceleration time plus acceleration time times initial velocity is equal to initial velocity acceleration time acceleration time times acceleration time is equal to plus acceleration square time square. Then final velocity square is equal to initial velocity square plus initial velocity acceleration time plus initial velocity acceleration time is equal to 2 initial velocity acceleration time plus acceleration square time square. Then final velocity square is equal to initial velocity square plus, by omitting 2 acceleration out, we are going to remain with initial velocity time plus 1/2 acceleration time square, but displacement is equal to initial velocity time plus 1/2 acceleration time square, which is the second equation of motion. We are going to substitute initial velocity time plus 1/2 acceleration time square by displacement. Which is the third equation of motion.